All right. So good afternoon. My name is Roy Richter. I'm the president of the NYC Captains Endowment Association. And we're here today to talk about our ad campaign that in opposition to proposed city council legislation that, if passed, places the public and New York City police officers in harm's way. First, let me introduce the people that are here with me today. I have Louis Turco, president of the Mike Palladino, president of the Detectives Endowment Association. Patrick Lynch, president of the Patrolmen's Benevolent Association. City Councilman Peter Valone, chair of the Committee of Public Safety. And thank you all for coming. So, how effective is a police officer with a blindfold? As you all know, there's been a lot of banter by politicians looking to carve out agendas that deal with a wide range of issues. What we're most troubled by, and what we look to place a practical image to, is proposed legislation in New York City, the New York City Council, that bans police officers from identifying a person by age, gender, color, or disability. And if a police officer transmits descriptions beyond the clothing color, they can be sued for racial profiling. We feel that's dangerous to the public and to police officers. The proposed legislation is taking an unusual path, not an exceptional path, of bypassing the appropriate committee whose job it is to review the legislation, and instead it's introducing the legislation directly to the City Council for a vote. Our advertising campaign is beginning tomorrow. It's running in the New York Post and the New York Daily News. And what we're asking the public is to assist us in preventing this dangerous legislation from passing. On our websites and advertisements, we're providing contact information for the City Council so that the public can contact them directly and voice their opposition to this legislation. Quite simply, what we're looking for the public to do is to help us keep politics out of policing. I'd like to introduce Lou Turco from the Lieutenants Benevolent Association.
Thank you for coming out. My name is Lou Turco. I'm the president of the Lieutenants Benevolent Association. I represent 1,750 active lieutenants and over 3,000 retired lieutenants in the city of New York. The Lieutenants Benevolent Association is strongly opposed to City Council Bill 1080, which we believe will have a chilling effect in maintaining the public safety and the safety of the men and women who patrol the streets of the city of New York. The proposed legislation will cause the members of the department to hesitate transmitting legal and detailed information of persons who commit crimes, potentially leaving our members vulnerable to personal and civil liability. This hesitation will place the public and our members in harm's way. We are asking the citizens of New York City to contact their respective city council representatives and voice their disagreement related to this proposed legislation. Our main concern related to this proposed legislation is directly related to how it would impact the safety of the public, to which our members took an oath to protect. Thank you.
I'd like to introduce Mike Palladino. He's the president of the NYC Detectives Endowment Association.
Thank you very much. I want to talk about the politics, the political end of this. My question for Speaker Quinn is why now? She's been Speaker for the last 7 years, and during that 7-year period, the stop and frisks have continually gone up. So I think the timing is very suspect. I think it's politics at its worst. In her position as the Speaker, she's manipulating legislation for personal gain. In plain English, selling the security of all of New Yorkers for votes in the upcoming election. Now, recently I sent a letter on behalf of the Detectives Endowment Association to all the members of the City Council, asking them to either withdraw the legislation at this time, or at least hold off. Right now, we have a federal court case that has ended. There's been a thorough examination of the facts in the federal court case. And let's wait to see the results of the court case. I think that the fate of stop and frisk will ultimately be determined by this particular federal court case. I also think that if a special monitor or a consent decree is levied on the police department and federal monitoring is put into place, well then the IG, this highly paid IG that the city council would like, is simply going to be a high price to go for any federal monitor that comes in the door. So what I'm asking them to do is let's wait for the court case to conclude and let's see a decision from the court case. And let's also see what a new administration brings in. There's going to be a mayoral election. I think all the candidates have discussed it. And so I'm asking the city council to wait, hold off on this legislation. It's very dangerous. In fact, if it wasn't so dangerous, the legislation would be laughable if you go through it. So that's my statement for today. Thank you.
I'd now like to introduce Patrick Lynch. He's the president of the Patrolmen's Benevolent Association.
This bill and the IG bill is unnecessary and redundant. The city council already has this authority. Racial profiling is already illegal and should be. What this does is handcuff the police officer on the street. When a description comes over, rather than saying a male white wearing jeans and a t-shirt, now it comes over jeans and a t-shirt. You'll stop a male white, a male black, a male Asian, and a woman. Now you're stopping everyone. Then it gives them the right, if they feel like they should not have been stopped, let's sue. Where does that put the police officer? Where does that put that man or woman wearing the uniform? Now they make their job more difficult, almost impossible to do, and then say we're going to sue you and take your home away. This is a bill that is unnecessary, should not pass this city council, should be vetoed by the city. It's also, we oftentimes talk about transparency in city government. What's transparent here is for the speaker's entire term did not let bills that she disagreed with go to the floor. What's transparent now is that because it's election time and she's running for mayor, she'll let anything go to the floor. This should not go to the floor. Again, unnecessary and redundant.
Thank you, Pat. I'd now like to introduce Peter Vallone, the city council member, chair of the Public Safety Committee.
Thank you. I will soon have the dubious distinction of being the first chair in the history of the city council which the speaker allowed a bill to go around despite the speaker's supposed opposition. But it's a distinction that I'm proud to have, because while I can't stop a bill from coming to the floor, I refuse to be part of this process that will absolutely result in blood on the streets. Now, we all woke this morning to a startling image of a police captain with a blindfold on the front page of the Post. But you know what? That image could go further. That police officer shouldn't just have a blindfold, should have a pair of handcuffs, as Pat Lynch said, because they will be handcuffed from doing their job. Not only will they be able not to see what's going on, but they won't be able to take any actions for fear of being held liable by a court. It should also, that picture should also have perhaps a target on that police officer's chest, because when they can't see who the bad guys are, when they can't take action, they will not get the guns off the street, they will not get the criminals off the street, and that will make them a target, and that will make all of us targets. So it should actually be worse than it is. Let me tell you, well, before I do, what this bill H.R. 800, which I think is now 1010, will do is it will erase all the hard work that we have done since 1991. In 1991, my father started the Safe Street, Safe City program, which put 10,000 more cops on the street. And those cops were used by our mayors, by our police commissioners, and the people behind me. All of our law enforcement personnel did an excellent job, and we have brought crime down nearly 80% since 1991. And in one fell swoop, with this bill, it will all be eliminated. A bill written by people who were elected just recently, without one day of law enforcement experience. They will erase all of the gains that we have made, and I am afraid, and New York City should be afraid. They should be very afraid. And I wanted to read this. I don't normally read, because this is what the bill does. And anyone who tells you otherwise is lying to you. Virtually every person subject to any police action will have an automatic right into state court, which will then, depending on the case, be able to sanction either the NYPD as a whole or the individual officer. That's what it does. What that will result in is tens of thousands of lawsuits. And even if the city won each one, and you know they would, that would blow a massive hole in the city budget. That will result in is cops taken off the street and brought down to court on a daily basis. An additional court, not just a court where they put the person where they arrested, but an additional state court to testify a second time. That will take our cops off the street. And the third thing it will do, and this is the true goal of this bill, it will put the control of the NYPD into the hands of the judges. That's what they want to happen. They're going to continue to put these cases before state courts until they get judges that will say you can't do stop and frisk here, you can't do DWI roadblocks there, you can only arrest women in this precinct since you only arrest men all the time. You can't do search warrants. They will control the NYPD, not Ray Kelly. That's the ultimate goal of this bill. Now, the proponents who said, hey, if you just stop profiling by race and gender, then you won't have anything to worry about. First of all, I wrote the anti-racial profiling bill in this city. It exists right now. Second of all, you realize that every male stopped will have a right as a court? That's why I say virtually every person stopped. Because women aren't stopped 50% of the time. So no matter what these guys do behind me, and these men and women, no matter what they do, they're going to wind up in court based on a disparate impact theory because they stopped the man. And the only way to stop that, according to the sponsors, is to stop women 50% of the time. And as the father of two young girls, I am outraged. Outraged that that's what these people in city council want to happen. They want women to be stopped 50% of the time. Otherwise, every action the NYPD takes will wind up in state court. That's what they want. Ask them about it. Have them deny it. When they say, oh, if this NYPD just stops profiling, that's what they mean. You can't stop profiling by race and gender unless you stop women based on the percentages that they exist in the population. Now, I rarely take notes, but this is that important. I do want to address something I just saw on the web, and I think it was Captain Richter that was personally called a liar by one of the sponsors of this bill, because he's saying that race and gender cannot be used at all. Now, it is not the fault of anyone up here that they are commenting on the original version of this bill. That's the bill the sponsors put in, and that's what the original version said. That you can't use race or gender or any other factor at all. They put that in, and I did have a hearing, by the way. I denied that bill a hearing. We had a hearing on that bill, and that's the bill that was discussed. It's not up to them to be up on every amendment that the sponsors make almost on a daily basis. They were provided the new bill. And the image of a cop with a blindfold is entirely correct. It's entirely correct under the original bill and under the new bill. Because they will be blindfolded and handcuffed, and they will have a target by a bill that says every action you take will be overseen by a state court judge who can sanction you individually or who can sanction the entire police department. So the image is absolutely correct. The bill they're commenting on is the original version, which these naive new council members actually put in. It was a bill that said you can't use race or gender or any of the other characteristics to any extent. So they're absolutely right. You couldn't put out over the radio male white, female. You couldn't based on that bill. That's the bill they actually put in. That's how little experience they have. Now you're going to go to them, they're going to say something different than I'm saying and they're saying. So it's time we pick a side. Okay, it's time the public picks a side. It's time the press picks a side. You need to believe Ray Kelly, perhaps the world's foremost public safety expert. You need to believe me, public safety chair, former prosecutor. More importantly, you need to believe these people behind me who have given their entire lives and risked their lives for law enforcement. Or you can believe people who were just elected but who don't have one day of law enforcement experience at all. And you can determine who you should believe as to what this bill will result in. That's what it comes down to. So I want to thank all these people behind me. I know there's a little kid back there somewhere in the hat. That's what we're doing this for. We're doing this for the safety of our kids. Coming out today, I've stood with many unions out here. I happen to think this is perhaps the best dress group union that I've seen in a long, long time. but I want to thank you for coming out here today. The way it stands right now, just inside of baseball, the Speaker is putting on stated meetings next week to go around my committee. Last we heard is they'll be putting one on Monday, which on Monday they will take a vote on a motion to discharge from my committee, where the majority of the council members vote to go around my committee. And then on Wednesday, yet another state is being put on to vote on the actual measure. It will then be vetoed by Mayor Bloomberg. I think that's interesting because this could have been done, by the way, at the stated meetings which are already scheduled. But for some unknown reason, the Speaker, who doesn't support this measure, is put on 2 additional stateds next week just to get it passed right away. Perhaps so that law enforcement couldn't alert people to what's actually in these bills. Perhaps so the press couldn't get out there and alert people to what's actually in these bills. I don't know. You have to ask why this is being put on such a fast track, why 2 additional stateds are being put on next week. There's no need for that. I better stop talking, but there's so much on this topic, and I'll be around for questions. Thank you. Well, not yet. He's in charge, sorry.
Thank you, Councilman. So I just wanted to, because I was informed that the council member from Brooklyn tweeted that I'm a liar. So what I just wanted to do is, before I came over, I downloaded the latest version of Introduction 1080. And besides the private right of action, which exists in whatever version you're talking about, has a specific new language that says bias-based profiling means an act of a member of the force of the police department or other law enforcement officer that relies on actual or perceived race, national origin, color, creed, age, alienage, or citizenship status, gender, sexual orientation, disability, or housing status. Now that was introduced, you can all find it on the City Council website, June 12, 2013. So to the extent there's a council member with an amendment in their pocket that they don't want to disclose to the public, I'd appreciate seeing it, as well as I think the public would. I haven't seen any such amendment. I'm looking forward to not just amendments to this legislation, but actually the City Council voting no on this legislation and not letting this dangerous piece of legislation proceed. So,
June 12th, you said?
June 12th, yes. Mr. Bono?
Since you are, the head of the committee, safety committee, do you think Bloom Twins is using that for political purposes, like Mr. Palladino said?
My father was speaking for a long time, and Gifford Miller, and then Steve Quinn, and I don't know one time where a committee chair has been circumvented. There are a lot of committee chairs right now holding up bills. I've got a bunch that I want to have hearings on, and I can't. But this is the one time. That's right before mayoral election. I think you have to do the math.
Okay. Deputy Inspector? When we talk to Council President Quinn's office and the mayor's office, they both say they're opposed to the bill. Why is this such a significant issue in your mind, if that is what they're saying?
It's so significant because if you look at the bill, this is 1080, updated on June 12th, 2013. Look at all the co-sponsors. It's a majority of the City Council members have co-sponsored this bill. That means that they're looking to vote in favor of the bill. Plus, add to that the fact that the Council Speaker is looking to introduce a motion to discharge, to bypass the committee whose role and obligation it is to vet out the legislation. That's very troubling, very dangerous, and that's why we've come out and we're opposed to this.
Inspector, you obviously feel strongly about this. That's, if I understand it correctly, that's you posing in that ad with the blindfold on. What is that? What message are you trying to send with that image and that stand that you took?
Sure. Well, today I have the blindfold off. But having the blindfold off, there's been a lot of banter. And you talk to anybody out in the public. We're in a load of political races. We're in city council races, public advocate races. Well, there's not really races for controller. Mayoral races. There's banter going back and forth. Everybody is staking out their own posture and your own position on a variety of issues, looking to call favor from different groups and organizations. The public, it's background noise. What we wanted to do was actually get an image out there, an image that the public can see and say, what is this image? What is it? What does it mean? And that's why we put the image out. It's something that impacts directly on, to a person that looks at it and wants to know further and cause them to take action against this bill and contact their elected local council. These are elected leaders of the city council, elected by the community. The community should be outraged that this legislation is out there. Any other questions? Thank you. I want to thank everybody for attending. Appreciate it. Thank you.